If you ever visit Ireland, remember this. Never greet a lone magpie with silence. Never answer when the wind calls your name. And whatever you do, don't put shoes on the table. Because in Ireland, the smallest mistakes invite the biggest misfortunes. And the unseen? It always watches. Chapter 1. When night falls over Ireland. When darkness drapes itself over Ireland, it doesn't just drop from the sky. It arrives slowly, like a familiar visitor who knows better than to rush. It glides across the hills, sliding between the quiet sheep fields, pooling in valleys, brushing against ancient stone walls that have seen more lifetimes than any living soul. And then, like fog deciding where to sleep, the night finds its place. In this soft, ancient darkness, the air changes. The wind doesn't simply blow, it carries. It carries secrets, stories, breaths of the past that never quite left. You can almost hear it if you stand still long enough. The faintest murmur, the whisper of something old slipping between the hedges, reminding you that you're walking on land that remembers everything. Because in Ireland, night doesn't just fall. It reveals. Not magic, though it feels like that sometimes. Not danger, though the ancestors would say it's wise to be alert. But belief. A quiet, steady belief that the world is thicker, deeper, stranger than what our eyes can measure. The Irish don't shout their superstitions. They don't treat them like rules carved in stone. They treat them like small, careful gestures. Tiny rituals tucked into daily life. As natural as locking the door or kneeling to tie a shoelace. A hand lifted to greet a magpie. A sudden silence when a mirror cracks. A quick, nervous laugh when the wind howls through a keyhole. These aren't fears. They're acknowledgments. Soft nods to the unseen. Because here, superstitions aren't superstition. They're memory. Inheritance. A way of respecting the things we don't fully understand. Some protect you. From misfortune, from wandering spirits, from bad luck creeping in through cracks. Some warn you of moments when the veil feels thin and the night feels too watchful. And some just remind you that the world is bigger than we pretend. That something ancient is always sitting just beyond the lamplight. So tonight, under this gentle Irish darkness, we walk together, step by step, into the everyday beliefs the Irish still carry. Not out of fear, never fear, but out of respect. Respect for stories older than the roads. Respect for the land that hums quietly beneath your feet. Respect for the possibility that the unseen isn't as far away as we think. Chapter 2. Shoes on the table, an invitation to bad luck. In Irish homes, shoes on a table isn't just messy. It feels like you've poked fate in the ribs and dared it to react. It's one of those quiet rules everyone knows, even if they can't remember when they learned it. The superstition began centuries ago, in a time when traditions carried more weight than words. Back then, new shoes were placed on coffins as a final blessing, a small gesture meant to guide a soul safely into the next world. It was solemn, sacred, a moment families performed with trembling hands. So when someone started placing shoes on a table, especially indoors, it looked too similar to that funeral ritual, almost as if you were reenacting a goodbye that hadn't happened yet. Symbolically, accidentally, you were inviting death to pull up a chair. Generations rolled forward like mist over the fields. The harshness of the meaning faded, but the edge of the warning never fully disappeared. And now, in Ireland, if you drop a pair of shoes on the table, even for just a second, the reaction is instant. Someone will gasp like you've summoned a ghost. Someone else will shout your name like you've broken an ancient seal. And at least one person, usually the oldest in the room, will chase you away with a dish towel as if they're warding off bad spirits. Because even today, people say with a half-laugh, half-warning tone, shoes on the table brings misfortune and a fast, fiery argument to follow. Chapter 3. Salt. The tiny crystals that fight the devil. In Ireland, spilled salt isn't just an oops moment. It's treated like a tiny spiritual emergency. That little pile of crystals on the table can silence a whole room for a second, like everyone is waiting to see what you'll do next. Because salt wasn't always something you sprinkled on eggs. Long before fancy spice racks, salt was power. A protector. A purifier. A quiet little shield humans trusted to keep darkness at bay. So when those grains scatter across the table, Irish instinct takes over before the mind even catches up. Right hand, left shoulder, Throw. A ritual done so many times you don't need to teach it. You just know. The idea behind it? The devil lurks behind your left shoulder, always waiting for a crack in your luck, always hungry for a slip in your courage. And salt, simple, ordinary salt, is said to blind him, burn him, or at the very least make him jump back like he stepped on hot coals. Ask 10 people, you'll get 10 versions. Some swear the devil actually flinches. Others say the motion alone is enough to send him running. But here's the part no one argues about. You don't ignore spilled salt. Not in an Irish home. Not with old stories whispering in your ear and a devil supposedly hovering just behind your shoulder. On Irish soil, you don't take that chance. Not for a second. Chapter 4. Knock 3 times. The unseen are listening. Irish superstition doesn't like to wait. The moment you say something hopeful, something bright, something that feels almost too lucky, the old instinct kicks in like a reflex. Anywhere else, people knock on wood out of habit. But the Irish? They wander a little deeper into the unseen. Because in Ireland, it's never just one knock. It's 3. The first knock is for protection, a quick shield thrown up between you and whatever might be lurking. The second is for truth, a way of anchoring your words so they don't drift into dangerous territory. And the third, that one is for the spirits. The quiet ones. The old ones. The ones you never see but always feel standing just beyond the edge of your luck. The knocks are not random taps. They're a message sent through wood and air and silence. A soft signal that says, we meant no challenge. A boundary drawn with sound instead of words. A polite but firm reminder to whichever unseen listener is nearby. Not today. Not this wish. Stay back. Some say the spirits respect the knocks. Some say they simply lose interest. And some believe the rhythm itself confuses whatever mischief might have been coming your way. But one thing is certain in Irish homes, pubs, and quiet country kitchens. If you speak a blessing or a hope out loud, your knuckles will follow. Chapter 5. The Lone Magpie, Keeper of Sorrow and Joy. Across Ireland, magpies aren't merely birds. They're omens, watchers, and whisperers of things yet to come. A single flash of black and white wings can bend a person's mood for an entire day. One magpie is a warning, a sign of sorrow, a quiet tug of unease that settles in the chest before the mind catches up. So when an Irish person spots one alone, they don't leave it to chance. They straighten up, soften their voice, and greet it properly. Good morning, Mr. Magpie. And how's your family today? To outsiders, it looks eccentric. A quaint superstition, a harmless habit. But to the Irish, it's a small act of self-preservation. A charm. A way to tip the balance of fate back into safer territory. Because disrespecting a magpie is like disrespecting fate itself. And fate has a long memory and a fondness for mischief. 2 magpies. Joy. 3. A girl. 4. A boy. But 1. 1 is the reason people pause, clear their throat, and choose their words with care. For it is the lone magpie, the keeper of sorrow, that makes even the bravest a little nervous. Chapter 6. Itchy palms and itchy noses, small itches, big meanings. Irish superstitions adore the tiniest signs. The flicker, the twitch, the soft little sensations most people ignore. A palm that suddenly tickles? That's not just dry skin. That's the whisper of money on its way. Not a fortune, not a life-changing windfall. Just a surprise note in an old coat, a coin in the road. A small blessing slipping into your day when you least expect it. But the nose. The nose is far more complicated. An itchy nose means one of 3 things. Someone is talking about you. Someone is thinking of you. Or, if the itch comes sharp and sudden, a quarrel may be stirring in the air. And then there's the nighttime itch. The one that arrives when the house has gone silent. When the fire has burned low. And the air hangs thick with the quiet of old rooms. If your nose starts to itch then, they say a spirit has drifted close to your face. Not to harm you. Not to frighten you. But simply to look. To linger. To acknowledge the living as they pass. A gentle reminder whispered without sound. You're not alone. Chapter 7. Falling cutlery. Visitors on the way. Irish kitchens have their own quiet system of divination. A clatter of metal, a sudden slip from the hand. And the future announces itself right there on the tiles. A dropped fork means a man is on his way. Usually sooner rather than later. Walking with intent or carrying news he's eager to share. A knife hitting the floor is sharper in meaning. It tells of a woman coming. Someone with purpose, questions, or opinions to deliver. And a fallen spoon, the gentlest sound of the three, foretells a child, perhaps laughing, perhaps wailing, but certainly bringing noise, curiosity, and a storm of tiny footsteps. But if someone manages to drop all three before breakfast, well, the Irish don't bother wondering what it means. They don't look for symbolism, logic, or signs. They simply sigh, set the cutlery back on the table, and reach for the kettle. Because once the kitchen starts speaking in such a racket, there's no doubt about it. Someone unexpected is already on their way, and good hospitality must be ready to meet them at the door. Chapter 8. The blessed cows that see the other world. Ireland's cows aren't just animals. They're quiet guardians of the land, keepers of secrets older than fences or farmhouses. On old farms, the elders whispered that certain cows, especially the ones with strange patches of white, or a mark shaped like a crescent moon, could see beyond the veil. Some said they watched ghosts wander the hedgerows. Others believed they saw fairies slipping between ditches and doorways. And a few insisted the cows sensed darker shapes, shadows that never had a name, and never wanted one. Farmers bless their cows not out of fear, but out of deep, practical respect. A blessing is a way of saying, you know things we do not. May those things pass you by gently. Because when a cow suddenly refuses a familiar path, a route she's walked every day of her life, it isn't stubbornness. It isn't nerves. It's a warning. And when she lifts her head and stares at what looks like an empty field, her gaze fixed and unblinking for far too long, the old people say that nothing might, in fact, be something invisible to us, but crystal clear to her. Chapter 9. Fairy paths, roads you don't cross. Ireland has invisible highways, narrow, ancient lines woven through fields, hills, and hedgerows. They're not marked on maps, not written in any official record. Yet every old family knows where they lie. Fairy paths, the restless routes where fairies travel, from hill to hill, from fort to fort, from world to world, without ever slowing their pace. And in Ireland, you never interfere with one. You do not build a house across it. You do not block it with walls or fences. You do not sleep on top of it, even for a single night. You don't plant a tree or stack a stone in a way that might force the fairies to walk around. Those who ignored these rules often paid a price. Not loudly, not immediately, but quietly, with a precision that felt pointed. Nights that turned restless without reason. Doors that refused to stay shut no matter how many times they were latched. Animals balking at the threshold, ears flat, eyes wide, as if something unseen waited inside. And then came the misfortunes. Small at first, then unsettling, each one carrying the eerie sense of being placed rather than accidental. The Irish have a saying, fairies are small, but their anger is enormous. Chapter 10. St. Brigid's Cross, the rushes that guard the doorway. Every year on February 1st, when winter loosens its grip just slightly, Irish hands gather fresh green rushes and begin the familiar, patient weaving of a St. Brigid's cross. It's a small ritual, but one filled with centuries of faith and comfort. The finished cross is hung above the doorway, a sentinel of woven reeds meant to shield the home from fire, illness, misfortune, and anything that might slip in uninvited. The belief behind it is beautifully simple. A home without protection is open to danger, but a home with Brigid's blessing, that is a home watched over, a place where trouble hesitates at the threshold. Some families save every cross they've ever made, tucking them into rafters and beams, over cupboards and behind old photos, layering years of protection until the house feels wrapped in quiet grace. Others replace theirs faithfully each year, believing that freshness holds the strongest power, that new rushes bring new luck, new blessings, new strength for the months ahead. But one rule is shared across the country, from the newest apartment to the oldest stone cottage. You never let the year pass without weaving one, not if you want Brigid to keep watch at your door. Chapter 11. When the wind calls your name. This superstition is rarely spoken aloud. It isn't the kind of tale shared at crowded tables or bustling pubs. It's passed on in murmurs, in lowered voices, in those quiet moments by the fire, when the night feels a little too deep, and the old stories feel a little too close. For the Irish say this: if the wind calls your name at night, clearly, softly, unmistakably, you must not answer, because sometimes the wind carries voices that are not its own. Voices that imitate the living with unsettling precision. Voices that try to draw you away from the hearth, from safety, from sense. Voices that crave acknowledgement, the way a shadow craves light. Answering them is like opening a door, without looking to see who stands on the other side. A risk, a mistake, an invitation you cannot take back. So if, in the hush of darkness, the wind curls around your window and whispers your name, stay still, stay quiet. Let the moment pass you like a cold draft through the room. For the living must keep their voice and their attention away from the dead. Chapter 12. Final Whisper, Why the Irish Still Believe. Ireland isn't just a country. It's a memory made real. A place woven from mist, stone, sea, and story, where the land itself seems to breathe, and the past never fully steps aside for the present. Every superstition, from spilled salt to greeting a lone magpie, is a thread that binds modern life to the deep, ancient instincts of the people who came before. These small rituals, these tiny gestures, carry echoes of older worlds, where danger walked quietly, and wisdom came wrapped in whispers. Maybe the beliefs are true. Maybe they're gentle warnings passed down through centuries. Or maybe they're simply reminders that the world still holds corners we cannot map, mysteries that refuse to be solved, and forces that move unseen just beyond our reach. But the Irish know something that many have let slip from memory. Respecting the unseen costs nothing. A nod, a greeting, a pinch of salt, a turned key. Little tokens of caution offered to the dark. Ignoring those things, though, that can cost everything. So rest now, wanderer. Let the night settle softly around you. May your path be gentle, and may your luck follow you always, faithful as a loyal shadow.